As promised, here is the second game of my series with Broski Durman. Best of 3 series. Second one was Chosokabe versus Shimazu, and for those of you who have seen my classic battle matches before from Fishy's March Madness, Fish Sandwich Patrol's Total War Shogun 2 Classic Battle Tournament, you will recognize this army. And honestly, I went try hard. I don't like losing, I never do, and so when I went in the second game, I decided to go back to something that I know really well, and that is rushing. And the whole concept of this army is to run at my opponent and completely just overwhelm them with cavalry on all sides, with a Yari ashigaru spear wall in the front, and then flanking with a very strong core of Katana samurai, backed up by a Katana hero, which in classic battle mode is extremely powerful. This Katana hero, it serves a couple of functions. One of them is to anchor my line. When it's next to a bunch of Katana samurai, it inspires all of them and it keeps them in the fight for a very long time. But while heroes in Avatar Conquest aren't quite as effective because the stat increases aren't very high, and say a Nodachi can still get like 25 attack in Avatar Conquest, in Classic Battle Mode, a Nodachi can't do that. So the gap in Classic Battle Mode is much bigger. For the hero units, they're much more effective because these stats, like these 25 attack, 10 melee defense, 40 morale, is a bigger deal in Classic Mode as opposed to Avatar Conquest. So they also have built-in Hold Firm and built-in Bonsai, which is huge for me because, one, the Bonsai isn't quite as effective on a hero because you're not worried about them routing for the most part, but it does increase their killing power even more. And then Hold Firm is huge because up to 3 units in a radius around my Katana hero will be kept in the fight with unbreakable morale for, I believe, 30 seconds, but it might be a little bit longer than that. I don't remember exactly how long it is. It's like 30 or 45 seconds, I believe, which can definitely turn the tide of a battle. So, up front, Yari ashigaru in Spear Wall. I believe I brought 5 of them. Most of them have 5 chevrons, I believe, just to increase that killing power when they're in Spear Wall. Then I have 5 katanas, 1 katana hero, 1 Naginata warrior monk just for the war cry to send units wavering, and it's a good unit to keep in the back just to ward off enemy cavalry, and then send into a fight at the end, and then that war cry will be used to break my opponent, and then some Great Guard and Yari Cav as well. My opponent bringing Shimazu, Yari ashigaru, lots of matchlocks, Katana core for the most part, but he does have some Naginata samurai, and then Great Guard in the back, and I believe he has some hidden units as well. So let's get into it. First things first, the most important thing is I have to close the gap as quickly as possible once I finally decide to go. Now, I can worry about capping dojos first, but if I am in range of his matchlocks, I have to make a very quick decision. I either have to engage and meat shield with my Yari ashigaru and get into melee ASAP, or pull back if I take a volley. And that's the biggest thing, is that if your opponent gets into range, well, you shouldn't let your opponent get into range until you're ready to fight. I think I do a pretty decent job of that. 50 bomb, hello. I'm going to say 1 sec. Recording. Sorry about this, guys. I'm not going to cut that out of the video. I don't really see the point. Anyway. So what I'm going to do is send these Yari ashigaru up front. They do have 5 to 6 chevrons, so if I engage in melee with any of them, I will be able to maybe even win a fight, but the biggest thing is that they're just pretty cheap units, and I can use them to cap dojos without too much fear of losing them. One thing I did over here is I kept 2 Yari ashigaru, not just 1, because I knew that he was going to be sending a lot of units over in that direction, and then I also backed up with the Yari Cav. So what I'm doing here, I know that these Yari Cav can't deal with these Great Guard by themselves, but if they're backed up by Yari ashigaru, they're completely safe. No offensive he takes over there is going to tie me down long enough that he can kill this whole thing, because I'll be smart enough to pull away. And if he does decide to engage with his Great Guard, they're going to have to deal with Spear Cavalry, which is scary enough, but they'll also have to deal with Yari ashigaru, which in this game does not work. You cannot send even the best cavalry units against low-tier spears, because it just won't work out for you. So, Shrine is what I'm going to try to cap. I believe I will be able to get hold of this. And at the moment, it looks like I'm going in for the engagement. Oh, he does have a unit of heavy gunners, I forgot to mention. And it looks hugely devastating, and honestly, that was a really good volley, but it was from 2 different units. The biggest thing about heavy gunners is that they were nerfed a long time ago. There was a time where they could literally get 600 kills and the bullets would go through every single unit it touched, which was crazy. I mean, they could get 600 kills in a volley. They could kill your whole army if you bunched up. But they changed it so that they just send a lot of knockback. They'll knock down a bunch of units, and it's good for disrupting formations, but their killing power was definitely significantly reduced, which was a good thing. So, I know that I can take this spear wall fight, because my opponent does not have chevs on his Yari ashigaru, and I decided to keep a tighter formation, which means I'll be able to drive through the center of this engagement, and his units on the flank here aren't actually going to be able to end up doing anything. So I think if you want to fight in a spear wall battle, that's a better way to do it, is to just kind of, if they're really spread out, just kind of bunch up and just drive through the center. That works pretty well for me. On this flank, I'm going to send in my Yari ashigaru soon, and then I'm flanking my Yari cavalry over on that flank and my Great Guard over here. And a lot of my melee units I've already engaged in the center. And the good thing here is that I have this Katana hero, which I'll try to find it in a second. It's right there. I'll be able to pop hold firm when my units start wavering. I might lose this one, but I was able to steady it with a rally and a stand and fight. And they're going to be able to stay in there for a long time in this meat grinder kind of fight. It's the kind of fight that I want. I don't have ranged units. His matchlocks don't have good angles at all. They're firing in the back, just trying to ward off my cavalry. And that's not really how he wants to use them, honestly. So good charge here. I'm going to kill this matchlock samurai as quickly as possible, and then send them in to the engagement and try to get a rear charge off as soon as possible. He is responding with a Yari ashigaru here. Very smart from him. But he is not going to be able to get there in time to cover his general. And in the center here, my Yari ashigaru did clean up, but it took me a little bit to realize that they'd already won their fight. So this was a miss micro here, and actually kind of a big mistake. They should already be pressing in on this melee engagement. Definitely a big mistake for me. But over here, it looks like this fight is actually going relatively evenly. I might be able to win it, but he has matchlocks firing, so it's a little bit scarier. And this Katana hero is still beasting it. They don't have that many kills, but it wasn't about the kills. They were able to hold my lines long enough with the hold firm and their morale buffs to keep my guys in the fight, even though he got a rear charge off. And that was the difference, is that I got a rear charge off, but he had no hold firm and no morale bonus except for the one from his general to keep his guys in the fight, while I had more staying power because of that Katana hero. So right now the biggest threat is his cavalry. I gotta take them off the field ASAP so I can then send them in for hammer and anvils on the melee line. This melee engagement can still go either way, but the fact that I was able to clean up the center with my Yari ashigaru is a big deal, and I should be able to press in now. He's flanking with this Great Guard right here, and is going to get a rear charge off, but overall, I think I have enough units left on the field to be able to deal with that. I'll just be able to kind of blanket his hammer and anvil with my own Great Guard, and when I kill them and route them off the field, I'll have all the mobility because you won't have any cav left. So I did end up winning the melee engagement in the middle here because of a well-timed war cry. That's such a great tool to save to the end of the battle. I see some people use it right away, and while that's not necessarily the worst thing because it does lower the melee defensive units, if you only have one, save it for when units start wavering, because it'll break them. And that's the biggest thing, is that if you can break a unit when it's wavering but maybe could have stabilized, that's the best time to use it, basically. So very fast battle, definitely rush centric on my part. Wanted to get it over with as soon as possible, and the way I do that with that army, that particular army, is engage with the Yari ashigaru up front, beat back my enemy's Yari ashigaru, and honestly my Yaris serve two purposes. They can, one, stop the charge of any enemy units, so any unit with a good charge bonus, it's a great way to just meat shield my own troops with those Yari ashigaru because a spear wall can take it. And then they also meat shield really well for enemy range units. His matchlocks weren't able to kill any truly important units. And once I engaged as quickly as I did, he had to pull all his matchlocks back behind his lines. And on that map, he just didn't have a firing angle. So he had to turn them all around to focus on my cavalry. And with some decent cavalry micro, I was able to kill those matchlocks pretty easily and then press on into the actual infantry engagement. So My Naginata Warrior Monk, the one that I brought, was my best unit. It doesn't really surprise me. They are one of the best, if not the best melee unit in Classic Battle, not counting heroes. My Great Guard, I think I used really, really effectively because they were able to kill enemy cavalry, enemy range units, and then go in and hammer and anvil in the melee engagement. And then a lot of my Yari ashigaru did very, very well because I had chevs on mine and he didn't have them on his. And even though he's Shimazu, which have the benefit of having the better Katana Samurai, I had the benefit of bringing that hero unit, which really stabilized my core and kept my guys in the fight for much longer than they probably normally would have been. Looking at his units, he didn't have any true MVP. I think a lot of his units did well in melee, but it just wasn't enough. I got all of my cavalry on the flanks, and as soon as I pressed back in to that melee engagement, I think it was pretty much over from there. And his matchlocks just weren't able to do what he wanted to do with them. We look at that, his best matchlock only had 63 kills. So overall, I was pretty happy with that Rush army. Next battle is very, very interesting. It's on Rivertown, which I think is one of my favorite maps in the game. But we'll talk about that when that video gets uploaded. Hope you guys enjoyed the second game. Third game will be coming your way soon. And I will talk to you all later. See ya.